Good evening. I'm James Exum, also known as Sakshi. I'm here in South Austin, Texas, and I'm about to create another discourse for my YouTube channel. This is a series of discourses on paradoxes in yoga philosophy. This should be number 7, I believe, and I've entitled this one The Paradox of Time and Space, a Brahma perspective, in other words, seen through the eyes of the creator. Let's go ahead and start with our introduction. Oh, by the way, it's about 7 o'clock in the evening. The introduction, and we'll go with me reading from my script that I've written recently and have only reviewed once or twice, so if I make a mistake, don't think I'm suffering any problems with my memory or ability to read. It's just simply, as an older man, sometimes I will mispronounce a word. Like I've noticed on YouTube, a lot of commentators that are, say, almost one third of my age. Yes, about 1/3 of my age. Quite often stumble over words and have to back up and repeat themselves in the proper manner. So let's start with the introduction. The enigma of time and space has captivated the minds of philosophers, scientists, and seekers throughout history. These two pillars of reality, we're talking about time and space here, frame the world we experience, yet their relationship to the ultimate source of creation, which is, of course, the Brahman, opens a further layer of paradox and wonder. In many spiritual traditions, especially those rooted in the Vedantic philosophy, Brahman is understood as the ineffable. In other words, he's unknowable on a personal level, and because he is God, and men and gods do not mix, so to speak, and also his true name and the total truth about him is unspeakable from the human viewpoint. In many spiritual traditions, especially those rooted in Vedantic philosophy, Brahman is understood as the inevitable, formless origin from which all things arise. Exploring the paradox of time and space through the lens of Brahman invites us to question not only the mechanics of the universe, but also its deepest metaphysical underpinnings. Defining time, space, and Brahman. This is one of my subdivision titles of this work. Time is often seen as the steady march from past to future, while space is a vast expanse in which all phenomena have their existence. To the human mind, these dimensions appear absolute and immutable. However, Vedantic philosophy teaches us that both time and space are manifestations of Maya. Maya is the great illusion. It's a tool of Brahman to present to human beings in their minds the universe as seen from this side of the veil, not that side of the veil, which would be the Brahmic side of the veil, the Mayic side of the veil, which is the true reality. To the human mind, these dimensions appear absolute and immutable. However, Vedantic philosophy teaches that both time and space are manifestations of Maya, the cosmic illusion, and have no independent reality apart from Brahman. Brahman, described as infinite, timeless, and spaceless, is the substratum upon which the play of creation unfolds. In this view, time and space are not merely physical phenomena, but expressions of consciousness itself. That's a very important sentence. I'll let you research that sentence and think about that sentence in your time. The paradox deepens. The paradox intensifies when we attempt to reconcile scientific and spiritual perspectives, in conventional experience. Time is linear and irreversible, and space is a fixed stage for matter. Yet Einstein's relativity suggests that time and space are interwoven and relative, not absolute. In quantum theory, relativity behaves in ways that defy classical logic, hinting at a deeper unity underpinning all existence. Vedanta asserts that this unity is Brahman, the singular reality in which all dualities dissolve, the singular reality in which all dualities dissolve. Thus, the paradox of time and space becomes a question of how the finite emerges from the infinite and how the mutable arises from the changeless. Well, this is rather deep if you're new to my channel and to my discourses. And the reason it's deep because, as I said, I'm an old yoga philosopher, and my specialty is comparative mythology, comparative religions, and commentaries on the great works of yoga. I'm talking about the texts of yoga. Everything, including starting with the Mahabharata, then the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, really the whole extended library of yogic wisdom that is up to today, by the way, up to today, even books written today. And not just by yogic writers, but also by scientists and literary, famous literary figures, scientists that write on the subject, psychologists that write on the subject, such as Dr. Carl Jung, and so forth and so on. So let's move on now. That's part of my commentary, by the way. When I break from reading the script, I'm giving you my personal commentary. And included in this paper, in this discourse, will be the commentary of Adi Shankara, the 8th century yoga wizard, so to speak. He was a mastermind as far as understanding the subject of yoga and yoga philosophy and the great works of yoga, including the Upanishads and so forth. He is the master of commentary and narrations on the subject of yoga writings. Philosophical implications is the next subcategory. The inclusion of Brahma transforms the paradox from a puzzle of physics and logic into a doorway of spiritual insight. If time is an illusion, does anything ever truly begin or end? If space is a projection, where do its boundaries lie? In the vision of Brahman, causality, change, and multiplicity dissolve into an undivided whole. This leads to profound questions about destiny, free will, and the nature of existence, questions that transcend scientific inquiry and invite contemplative exploration. Excuse me 1 second. I have a Parkinsonian-like disease, and I have to occasionally take a sip of some liquid to keep my voice box from freezing up or going into little spasms like you see that happens with me occasionally. I've had this for right at 20 years, so I'm progressing rather well considering the diagnosis. A lot of times your health depends on your attitude, your mental approach to it. I'm doing a lot of research and homework and making sure you take all the meds that are prescribed by the good physicians to take care of you, and I have several. Human perspective and the veil of Maya. The question of how we perceive time and space is not only a matter of sensory experience, but also a profound philosophical puzzle. Adi Shankara, the one I just spoke of, the great Vedantic sage, taught that our perception is fundamentally shaped by Maya. Maya is the cosmic illusion, by the way. And that cosmic illusion overlays the singular reality of Brahman. It forms this veil, this screen, because the human mind really would not be able to deal with seeing God face to face, so to speak, and understanding the width and depth of his power. And I say him, but actually in classic yoga teachings, he's referred to as it. And that's not an insult, that's just a historical fact. The cosmic illusion that overlays the singular reality of Brahman. According to Shankara, the senses and mind are instruments through which the Atman, which is the self, which is the soul, which is the Sakshi. I named my soul Sakshi because it communicates with me through that quiet voice that all of us that have souls hear occasionally, suggesting things to us to keep us out of trouble or to keep us on the right side of karma and on the right path of life, which is dharma. And this Atman appears to engage with the world, but this engagement is inherently limited and distorted. What we accept as the flow of time and the expanse of space are, in this view, superimpositions upon the infinite, timeless substratum of Brahman. That's a little bit redundant, but I really haven't revised this very much since I wrote it earlier today. Myself as Sakshi, James Exum, as Sakshi, I am a contemporary yogi commentator, extend this insight by emphasizing that human perception is not merely passive, but actively constructs the apparent world. I suggest that our minds, conditioned by cultural, linguistic, and psychological frameworks, reinforce the Vela Maya. I write that, quote, every act of perception is an act of interpretation, and every interpretation is colored by the deep-seated belief in separation and continuity. The world appears as a succession of moments in a field of objects only because we have forgotten our identity with the boundless source. Oh, that's a beautiful statement, I believe, even though I wrote it. That's not vanity, that's fact. Unquote. In this way, Sakshi's view, my view, resonates with Shankara's, yet brings a modern psychological awareness to this ancient doctrine. Together, the perspective of Adi Shankara and myself invite us to see that the veil of Maya is not only a metaphysical principle, but also an experimental reality reinforced through habit and belief, where Shankara points us towards the transcendence of Maya through knowledge, and that's jnana, and discrimination, which is viveka. Sakshi encourages a direct inquiry into, I encourage a direct inquiry into the mechanism of perception and stories we tell ourselves about reality. When you see me seem to blunder and call myself Sakshi, speaking in the third person, supposed to be, well, actually it would be in the fourth person. Really, the fourth person, because Exum is the third person. I do that because that's the way I write my papers. And then as I said, I did not go back and revise this. Had I done that, I would have changed Sakshi into I, the soul. I am my soul. I am not the body. The body is transient. The soul is eternal. The Creator is eternal. The soul is a divine spark on loan to the body from the first breath to the last breath. Then, after the body dies, like an old suit of clothes is cast off, and then the components of the body dissolve back into earthly elements. But the soul, which is eternal, has a different path once it has departed the human body, the gross body. So I encourage a direct inquiry into the mechanisms of perception and the stories we tell ourselves about reality. Both Shankara and myself suggest that liberation lies in seeing through the constructive nature of time and space, the constructed nature of time and space, allowing us to awaken to the ever-present. Really, that's all there is. There's only the present. The past has passed. The future has not arrived. So there's only now. That's why time is an illusion. In modern physics, earthly thought, time is a linear occurrence. It's the space, it's the timed, for lack of a better word, the calculated time between happenings. That is what humans think of as time. But on the yogic level, time is secular, it's cyclar, it goes in cycles. Yeah. It goes from creation, preservation, dissolution. And then from dissolution, it goes back into creation, preservation, dissolution. These are represented in Hindi philosophy and in yogic philosophy as the Tri-Murti, the three statues. Murti means statues, but it also means the gods, representations of the gods. And of course, you have Brahman, the creator. You have Brahman is the creator, and you have Krishna as the preserver, and then you have Lord Shiva as the destroyer. I think I may have gotten one of those wrong, but I'm a bit tired. I've had a rather busy day. But you can double check that yourself. What you want to do is, and if I'm off just by a little bit, by the way, you want to go to Yogipedia or Wikipedia and research these things for yourself. And when I say that, I truly mean this. I get no compensation for suggesting those two sources of encyclopedic information for you to learn and to do your research within. Both suggest that liberation lies in seeing through the constructed nature of time and space. Our perception of time and space are shaped not only by biological limitations, but also by the cosmic principle of Maya, which veils the true nature of Brahman. We experience the sensation of movement, moments, and extensions of objects. That's how we see time and space, or think of time and space, or experience time and space. But these experiences are fleeting ripples upon the surface of the formless source, which is Brahman. Modern science, with its ever more subtle instrument, brings us closer to the edge of this mystery, yet the direct realization of Brahman is said to occur not through technological means, but through the quietude, meditation and but through quietude, meditation, and self-inquiry. Now here comes the conclusion of this, and I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes. Seems like we might be able to do that. The paradox of time and space, when viewed through the lens of Brahman, transcends the boundaries of physics and philosophy. It invites us to glimpse the infinite within the infinite and to seek the timeless beyond the passing of moments. And we contemplate this paradox. We're drawn ever closer to the source of all existence, a source beyond time, beyond space, beyond all limitation. In the silent heart of Brahman, the riddle dissolves, and all distinctions are made whole. According to Vedanta, Brahman is not bound by time or space, but is the very foundation from which these dimensions spring. He's outside of time and space. He's the creator. Time and space are tools for experience and differentiation, but in the highest sense, all distinctions vanish in Brahman. Well, they would have to. He's the creator. There's no distinction outside of Brahman. Brahman is everything. The Upanishads point to the oneness between individual consciousness and the universal source, and that is the Maha consciousness, the great consciousness, the Para Atman, suggesting that this paradox of time and space is ultimately resolved in the realization of non-duality. Once you realize you are no different than the creator because you are a spark of the creator. A red blood cell flowing through my veins and arteries is no different. I am no different than those red blood cells. I'm the creator of those cells, and they are part of me. We are the creations of Brahman, and he is part of us. Thus, Brahman exists beyond the fabric of time and space, of what the non-enlightened perceive as reality. And there's the end of it. There it is. There's a conclusion. By the way, the Atman, the soul, is also eternal. It is not it is also outside of time and space. If you go back to that little allegory I made about the red blood cells in our body and our bodies basically being this part of the same creation, it's true. Even though we produce the cells, Brahman produced us. So everything comes from the top down. It does not come from the bottom up. That's how it works. This is why I have a little bit of a problem with evolution. Evolution teaches that we started off as in this muck and came out of the muck and became us. Well, I don't know about your family tree, but mine does not include a glob of mud and uck and whatever's in that ooze. My family tree includes humans only. Yes. So there we are. There's my opinion on it, and I will close. And I always close by doing the same thing, saying these basic words: be good to yourself, be good to others, and even to strangers. And remember that the geopolitical economic environment we're in is not what I consider the best by any means, but it shall pass. This too shall pass. And when it does, we'll be back to not a new world order, but an orderly new world. Yes, there it is. So if you enjoyed this, thank you so much. If you didn't, that's okay too. Come back and see me when you have a chance, and I'll be here for you. And this, like I said, is number 7 of my paradox discourses, yoga paradoxes. And I'm shooting for 50 videos by September the 30th, which is my 75th birthday. These will all have been completed within 2 months. I only started this a couple of months ago, my channel and my videos, and they cover a wide range of subjects, starting with yogis and yoga philosophy and yoga history, and just on and on and on I go. And once I reach that 50th one, I will not stop. I will continue either on a daily or semi-weekly basis to produce these for you. And I hope you enjoy them. And again, this is not a kindergarten class. This is a series of lectures, so to speak, that's meant for people that are further along within the philosophy of yoga. I'm not saying anything against the physical side, the asanas of yoga. I'm just saying it's a good blend if you want to go both ways with this. And thank you again for coming, and I'll see you later.